What's up, guys? Eli here. Eli and Coffee and Louie back here somewhere. Anyways, we're back here for a CD collection video. Exactly 10 CDs from my alphabetized collection. Just picking up where we left off last time. And one thing that I wouldn't say I'm just noticing this, but I'm remembering this, something that I kind of hadn't thought about in a while, is that when you have a massive CD collection that you've been collecting CDs for over 20 years, and you have over, I don't know, I've never counted my CDs. I probably have 2,000, 2 or 3,000. I'm not even sure. It's funny how you'll start noticing I don't want to say the clutter in your collection, but it's like I guess every release you have is kind of a memory, kind of a piece of time. You bought this at one point for a reason. You wanted to listen to it. You figured you'd probably like it. Something like that. But it's funny, as the years go by, and let's say you go through parts of your collection that you haven't gone through in a long time, you realize how much stuff in there that you now kind of look at as filler. But I don't know if there's any way you can really avoid that. It's just the way you evolve as a person and as a music fan. It wasn't filler when you bought it. Of course, you were excited to buy it, but 10 years later, 20 years later, maybe even a year later, it's like, oh, this is filler in my collection now. I'm probably never going to listen to this again. Just gonna let it, collect dust on the shelf or whatever. I don't know. Something I've been noticing as I've been doing, all of these CD videos. Really, there's at least one or two releases in every stack where I'm just like, I don't need this at all. But and then the thought is like, should I keep it forever? Should I just keep it forever in case maybe one day, maybe a year from now or 20 years from now, I want to listen to it again, and maybe I'll appreciate it the way I once did, or should I trade it to someone who actually wants it and is actually going to listen to it on a regular basis? I don't know. It's a conflicting one. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Whatever. So moving on to the stack here, and the reason I say that is because I'm not to ruin the video, but there are some releases in here that, you might love them, but I just like, god damn, I don't listen to these anymore, and I may never listen to them. And the last time I did listen, I was just I'm not into this anymore. This first release is not in that category, but nor is it really my cup of tea. But this is a band that I see as really good, a band that puts out quality music. Just not something I don't think I ever could really get into. And this is a 2-for-1, by the way. This is actually 2 albums for the price of 1, for me and for you guys. So we're talking about Hammers of Misfortune. This release came out in 2010. Metal Blade Records. So what you get here is 2 albums that had previously been released, and I don't really remember. I think they probably had been released, I don't know, in the couple years before 2010. Let's just say that. So what we're getting is Fields and Church of Broken Glass. So it's got this kind of slipcase. You pull it out of the slipcase, and you get this. It's a digipack. Still in decent shape, probably because I never really listened to this a lot. I probably pulled this out twice. So you get the Field side, and you get the Church of Broken Glass side. And, I might have just made it sound like I just absolutely don't really like this band. I do like this band. They're just not really my cup of tea. They're kind of like a folky, sometimes proggy, traditional heavy metal. You get the picture. I'm not going to pull these out. At times, it reminds me of kind of like a combination of like Jethro Tull meets some early 70s traditional heavy metal, maybe proto-metal. They really are a good band. I remember them having... they have a lot of connections to other bands. I want to say Slafeg. They have some kind of connection to Slafeg, I think. I think maybe some interchanging members. Or other people in that like Bay Area, like San Francisco, kind of retro traditional metal type thing. They definitely have. The members are definitely in a lot of other bands. Anyway, quality band, just not. It's one of those things that I wish I liked more, but I just don't. That said, when I do listen to it, and I've heard other albums of theirs besides those 2. Every time I listen, I'm like, God damn, these guys are really good. But it's just, the folky elements with the female vocals and stuff. It's just not my thing, I guess. I do really think they are a special band, and I think they're a really good band. And I know they have a rabid following, with a very good fan base and everything, and that's great. That's exactly what they deserve. Just not something I revisit very often. I do go back to those two albums every couple of years or so. And when I do, I enjoy it, but almost as kind of like I'm viewing it as kind of an outsider. Like, this isn't really my thing. I am appreciating it for what it is, and that's okay. Next, we have either everyone's favorite power metal band or everyone's favorite power metal band to hate on. You decide. You pick your side. I'm talking about the debut album from Sweden's Hammerfall, Glory to the Brave. Nuclear Blast Records, 97? I'm guessing 97. 97. All right. So, Hammerfall. Not a lot to say about them that you don't already know. Like I said, you either heard them and you're a pretty big fan, or you've heard them and they are the most offensive thing that it has ever passed through your fucking ears. I don't care, really. You take your pick. I don't care. I think Hammerfall are fine, to be honest. I never really got the love-hate dichotomy with that band. That said, I mean, they have become kind of a legacy power metal band. They are considered. They were a big part of that, basically that like second wave of power metal. I'm going to call it second wave because I don't know what else to call it. But in the mid '90s, I don't think they were exactly the first band to do it, but they were part of it. In the mid '90s, there were these bands from all over the world that were coming back and playing this power metal, like early Halloween and early Stratovarius and stuff like that. They were doing it, they were bringing it back, and people were really loving it. That kind of sound had been absolutely not cool. I mean, almost no metal was cool in the mid-90s anyways, so anyone doing any kind of true metal shit in the mid-90s gets a huge pass from me, to be honest, because they were not doing it to become superstars. Think about what was big right in the mid '90s. Nu metal was getting off the ground. Pantera were the biggest band on the planet. I think Metallica have always been big. But mid '90s, for underground heavy metal, it was one of probably the bleakest time in heavy metal history. Let's be honest. So, for bands to come out playing this fucking grandiose European power metal that only few people were into at the time. I mean, that's you get a huge pass. However, that kind of music would become popular again, that European style power metal or power metal in general, whatever. But Hammerfall became one of the biggest power metal bands really in the history of it, even though they weren't one of the earlier bands to create the style. They weren't that, but they were a revivalist band. I like that debut album, and I like a few of their other albums. But to be honest, that's kind of where my interest in Hammerfall ended. And it's not to say that I just don't like what they do anymore. I just haven't heard it. I'm definitely not as into power metal now as I was 10 years ago or even more. So I'm not really super open to hearing more Hammerfall. But that said, I'm not against it either. So I don't know. Hammerfall, for what they are, they're okay in my book. I don't see them as the laughingstock that some people do. I just don't care. I think I said my piece, and we'll move on to the next one. We've got a stand-up comedy album with a veteran comedian who is quite good, and honestly, in the grand scheme of stand-up comedy, probably a little underrated, because I really like this guy. He's an actor. He's been in multiple movies. We're talking about Harlan Williams with Harlarious. This came out in 2005 on Comedy Central Records. Remember when that was a thing? Maybe it still is. I don't know. I used to buy tons of releases from Comedy Central. Some of you younger people might be surprised to know that, you probably watched the channel, but you probably didn't know they were a record label at one time, and maybe still are. I don't know. I don't really buy stand-up comedy records anymore. I mean, I'll buy shit from the classic comedians that I love, David Cross and Patton Oswalt and Bill Hicks. Well, I think I have all Hicks stuff, but yeah. those comedians that I just named that are still going, I still try to pick up their stuff, even though I'm far behind. Like I just said, Patton Oswalt. I haven't bought his last like 3 albums, and they've been really fucking good. Anyway, Harlan Williams, I really like him. I really like this album. Sadly, he still tours. He's actually played a comedy club locally to me, and he's every couple of years he comes, and I've missed him the last few times. But there are some really good bits on here. I don't know if I remember exactly which ones, so I'm not going to really go into that. But yeah, there's some stuff on here that's just like, all right, whatever, over the top style Harlan Williams comedy. But when he kind of hones in and hits down on something, he can be really, really fucking good at it. So Harlan Williams. All right, now these next, we have 6 CDs. Okay, no, I lied. The next 5, there are 6 left, but the next 5 were all the same band. And they have become, in their own right, kind of a legacy band. They started in the late 90s. I'm probably not going to buy their music anymore because I have bought like their last few, and it's not that they're bad, it's just that they've gotten boring to me. They've gotten really boring. But the earlier stuff I still like. Don't play it a lot anymore, but I still will play it from time to time. We're talking about out of Tampa, Florida, we're talking about Hate Eternal. I don't have their first album. That is a very good album. I have their second album, King of All Kings. This came out on back when they were signed Earache Records in 2002 on this guy. 2002. So second album, really, really good. You got the Dan Seagraves cover art, of course. Yeah, you had, in addition to Eric Rutan, you had Jared Anderson, who has since passed away, and you had Derek Roddy on drums here. Very good album. Eric was a couple years, maybe even a little more than a couple years out of, at this point, 2002, out of Morbid Angel. The first 2 Hate Eternal albums, and actually maybe even the first 3 or 4, kind of have echoes of that, some of the stuff that he brought to Morbid Angel, which honestly, the albums that he plays on, the Morbid Angel albums he plays on, I think are fantastic. I think it's some of the best stuff they ever did. So Eric Rutan definitely was, definitely a dude that could go start his own band and it would be good. And you would know that if you listen to those Morbid Angel albums before Hate Eternal, that you probably weren't surprised. So yeah, I mean, he kind of brings his influences with his own unique playing style, and he's a very good guitar player. He's a good songwriter. He's a great producer, which is actually kind of his bread and butter these days. He has his studio, and he produces albums for other bands, and he stays very busy, and he's a very sought out producer at this point. So I like the early Hate Eternal. I like this next one too. I like this one a lot, actually. I've gone on record many a time saying this is my favorite Hate Eternal album. So this is pretty sure this is the 3rd album, because I don't have them all, but this is I Monarch. Came out on Earache Records still back in, 2005. There's the back. Show you the inside, because I don't know why people do that, but I've always done it. I probably just nicked it from someone else. There's the inside. So I really like this album. This kind of, I felt like this album kind of stood on its own apart from those first 2 albums. I mean, those were great, but this one, a little more dissonant, a little more chaotic, a little more weird. Those were a little bit more along the lines of like traditional death metal, and this one was like weird Voivod guitar stuff going on, and still death metal, but I don't know. Kind of a little different than those 2, a little more experimental. I don't know. I've always liked it. This is the one I've listened to most from them. And then you would go on to the 4th album. This is where the first time I think Hate Eternal would slip a little bit. And actually I should say, it's only really the production on this album that really rubbed people the wrong way. The album itself is actually pretty good. There's nothing wrong with the album. But 2008, now signed to Metal Blade Records, we got Fury and Flames. Now, this album would have a different lineup. I mean, there would be a lot of different lineups in the Hate Eternal discography. This one, so Jared Anderson had passed away. He had a new drummer, this young guy, Jade Simonetto, sorry. You had Sean Kelly from Ripping Corpse and Dim Mak playing on this, which is awesome because he's, first of all, he's one of the best guitarists in metal ever, but also him and Eric were in Ripping Corpse together. So I mean, this is kind of a cool, almost Ripping Corpse reunion, not quite. But, and then you have the mighty Alex Webster on bass from Cannibal Corpse. So there's really nothing wrong with this album. In fact, it's got some great tracks, like Bringer of Storm. Proclamation of the Damned. It's a very good album, actually. It has production issues, and I think, to be honest, going back to 2008, I think people were a little bit too hard on this. For the production, it's not that bad, but it's bad. I don't know. People were just flipping out, constantly talking shit about this band when this album came out for some reason. Again, there's nothing wrong with the album. It's just the production's a little weak. Moving on, this would be what, the fifth album, and this is actually a pretty good album. I don't reach for it a lot these days, but when I do, every now and then I will play this, and I'll be kind of taken aback. I'll be kind of like, God damn, this is actually really good. So I'm just going to kind of stand firm on that. This is a very good album. 2011, Metal Blade Records. We have Phoenix Amongst the Ashes. Pretty sure I saw them on this tour. Digipack, Metal Blade Records. It's good to see that a Digipack from 2011. So 10 years later, it still holds up. I mean, I don't bring my CDs anywhere usually. I'm not one of those people that brings them in the car and stuff. So I put them on a shelf where they're pretty well protected. And so yeah, considering that 10 years have gone by and this looks okay. Not great. I've seen better. But anyways. So you had some kind of cool Japanese-ish type artwork. Yeah, this album is really good. I think this is their last really good album, and I think this is also probably one of their best albums overall. Who's in this band at this time? I think... what was the lineup like here? Because I'm sure it's clearly not from the last album, because that was kind of a temporary thing. Okay, yeah, so you have Rutan, obviously. Jade Simonetto's still in the band, the young guy, crazy drummer. And then you have J.J. Hrubov. I never knew how to say this guy's name, actually. J.J. Hrubokak from... Shit. He's from a big death metal band, a sort of big death metal band. Was he from Monstrosity? I don't remember where JJ was from, but he was from, he had done his time in underground death metal for sure, and I think he brings a lot to Hate Eternal, and that's why he's been in the band ever since. So JJ's still in the band. He's probably actually, next to Rutan, he's probably the longest running member that's ever been in Hate Eternal. And he brings a lot to the table. Bass, he does bass, backing vocals, songwriting. Yeah, he's definitely a nice weapon in the Hate Eternal arsenal. So where are we at? Are we out now? Album number 6. All right. Album number 6, we have Infernus. This came out on Season to Miss in 2015, so we're starting to see a little bit more of a gap in between albums. At least I think I have them all up until this point. If I'm missing one, you can point that out, but... So Infernus, Season of Mist Records now, jumped the Metal Blade ship. So they started using this cover artist, and it's not bad. This artist is starting to show up a little bit more on other. He's doing work for other bands, as always seems to happen in the cover art for underground metal. I don't particularly care for this style though. This artist style, I think, very talented, but. In fact, yeah, this guy did the new Immolation album that's coming out next year, and he's done a bunch of stuff. I don't know. I just don't care for it as album cover art. So this album was okay. I couldn't ever really get into it. I remember after listening to it 4 or 5 times, I kind of started to like it, and then I just never wanted to really listen to it again. We had a change in drummers on this one. We had, so Jade left. You got a guy named Chasen Westmoreland, which is a mouthful. He's been in like deathcore bands and stuff, but whatever. He plays really, really well. He's a really good drummer. He can play all the blasts, and he can do everything any of the other Hate Eternal drummers could do, at least. And I believe I saw him live with a band. I think I saw them again around this time. I'm pretty sure I saw them with him on drums. But yeah, this album is okay. It's probably not an album I'm ever going to listen to again. So I don't have a whole lot to say about it. And I have even less to say about this next one. Still Season of Mist, 2018. Same cover artist. Again, art is phenomenal. I just don't really like it as album cover art. Upon Desolate Sands. I listened to this one even less. I think I've listened to this maybe 2, maybe 3 times. And it's okay. I just don't care to listen to it again. It has too much, there's too much like experimental stuff going on. Usually when I listen to death metal, I just want to hear death metal. Most often I don't want to hear a lot of experimentation, and there's just a little bit too much experimentation going on, and I just don't really care for it. So yeah, I've listened to this twice, I think, and I'll probably never listen to it again. So it begs that question: should I keep it forever, in the chance that maybe I'll reach for it again someday, and maybe I'll enjoy it, or should I, trade this off to someone who doesn't have it and really wants it and will play it all the time, And I'll be honest, most often I'll get on the selfish route and I'll keep it for myself just in case. In which I think there's a reason why we do that with albums, because I think we've all like traded off albums or sold them or whatever and then kind of regretted it down the line. I think that's why I don't sell albums or unless I absolutely hate them. I usually don't get rid of them. If I think they're even okay, I usually keep them. So anyways, last but not least, we have a band that I don't own much from. I think I have 3 releases from them. I rarely ever listen to them. They are massively popular in their own right, though. We're going to talk about Hawkwind. Actually, we're not going to talk about them much because they are a band with so many albums and so much history, and I don't know that much, to be honest. So this is a live album from 1973. So they were still a pretty young band. But it is a cool live album. It's raw, and it's not like a produced live album, if you know what I mean. This is a raw, maybe impromptu live album. We'll just call it that. So Bring Me the Head of Yuri Gagarin is what it's called. This is really intense. This is intense, bordering on like like Pink Floyd Live in Pompeii style intense. This actually does quite remind me of that, yet it's very much Hawkwind. But it reminds me of that in how it's just a very visceral, almost violent at times live performance. This is much more raw than anything Pink Floyd have ever done. Like I said, I don't know if this was meant to be a live album. I don't know the history behind it, but it was a show they played in '73, I think, in England. There's a lot of, and this is the only live Hawkwind album I've ever heard. I've never seen them live. I don't know if this is typical for them in 1973. I have heard that there is a song on here that I think is like not on any albums. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I have heard that, and I don't know which one it is. There are some standards. You got like Silver Machine on here. That's like one, a song that they're just known for. It's like one of their greatest hits. But yeah, this is a crazy intense live performance. There is like, other than just playing songs, there's like spoken word stuff and weird, it's just weird atmospherics going on. It's a crazy live album, and like I said, I don't know if that was typical for them or if that was just what they wanted to do for this one show, or maybe their shows from that year. I don't know, but this is a crazy intense live album. If you're a Hawkwind fan and you don't have this, you definitely get it. You probably do, because I know Hawkwind fans are crazy about, they usually will try to get everything, and I get that. I'm that way too with bands that I love. So anyways, that's all I got. 10 sort of albums. As I'm probably nearing the end of my laid off stretch from work, I have been pretty consistent with videos. That's been fun. I probably won't be as consistent once I go back to work, but I think I'll always do at least one video a week. But I have a number of videos lined up. I'm gonna start doing stuff that's different, kind of pushing the envelope for my channel at least. I have some ideas that I'm actually fairly excited about, and yeah, hopefully you guys will join me for those, and not just the ones that that I do all the time, the comfort food, I guess you'd say. But anyways, I gotta go. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Louis says hello, and goodbye. We will talk soon. Cheers.